What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts as a professional player on the Adidas AE 2s, and man oh man did Adidas do a great job with these. No sophomore year slump, so let's get straight into it. Retail price is 130 euros or dollars. I got my pair sent to me from Kicks and Adidas, so a massive shout out to them, and I'll leave an affiliate link in the description box below as there are still some sizes left. This beautiful with love colorway. And now for the important things, the traction performance. How does it feel? Absolutely phenomenal. This is really one of the best bites I have tested. The A1 was already good, but they had some issues with dust. Durability also wasn't that good, but here I didn't notice a lot of dust pickup. They were good on clean and dustier cords. They really have a top tier bite. If I would have to critique one thing, that would yet again be durability, because unfortunately the grooves are very thin and I think they will wear down very quickly outdoors. Mine have been holding up okay-ish indoors, but there are some areas where I can already see like high wear and tear areas where I can see the traction pattern wearing off a little bit. Speaking of the pattern, it's a herringbone traction pattern. On this colorway, we have a solid rubber setup on the very outside of the shoe, and in the middle, we have a translucent setup for which you can also see some of the support features that the shoe has, but we're gonna get to that later on in this video. Overall, the traction really does feel like an upgrade because it performs better on dustier cords. Maybe on the AE3s we'll actually see a durable setup for outdoors as well. But in my opinion, that's actually just a classic thing we see on basketball shoes in today's market a lot. They're mostly made for indoors because most people do play indoors, and essentially the players who have their signature shoes, they also only play indoors. So for me, that's not that big of a deal breaker, as there's a lot of options you can take outdoors. For the cushioning setup, that might be a little bit of a controversial topic, because in my opinion, the shoe is actually improved in almost every category, with the cushioning being the one that's questionable. For me, it feels better, but for some of you, you might have preferred the setup of the regular AE1 highs, which you can see here in the background behind me. They had a full-length boost setup with some light strike in there too, so it was a very nice and soft setup. It had a lot of compression, you got good impact protection out there as well, and it just felt very comfortable underneath your foot. Stepping comfort was also great. The insole is pretty much still the exact same as we had on the AE1s, but a nice thing is it doesn't move as much anymore, because on the A1s, my insole was flapping around while I was playing and it got me so mad I wanted to switch it out instantly. Here, it actually stayed in place, but I'd still recommend swapping it out because it's just not the best. Now back to the cushioning setup. In my opinion, this shoe feels a lot like the AE1 lows, just with slightly more comfort in there, so a little bit more. We have a full-length light boost setup, and according to Adidas, we also have light strike in there. It's probably carrier foam, but I don't really feel it that much. It's not to a point where it's like you can really have, or it has any significance in there, because the boost, it takes up most of the midsole. And the boost itself, it's inside, it's caged a lot. You've got some rubberized parts on the outside, so you also don't have as much compression, as I said, as compared to the AE1s. And you just don't have as much stepping comfort. So it's not such a soft setup. It still has very good impact protection, but in forefoot you are very low to the ground. And also the heel just doesn't feel as high off anymore as it did on the AE1s. In my opinion, impact protection is still good enough. Would they be an option for outdoors if you want to take them outdoors? In any case, yeah, I think you're going to be all right in terms of impact protection, but it just won't be as nice a soft setup or a comfy setup. And the durability of the foam should also be good. It's not as bouncy, so it doesn't feel like crazy boost-like we had on some other shoes. It reminds me a little bit, as I said, of the AE1 lows, or also of some older Harden models, like the Harden 1, for example, which was one of my favorite shoes, also had full-length boost, but just also wasn't the bounciest setup, not the most compression, but just a really nice, good setup, lower to the ground, still good enough impact protection. My feet just didn't hurt afterwards, and that's the case here as well. So in my opinion, that's a good thing, and that's also an upgraded cushioning setup for my personal needs. As I said, it could be that you might actually prefer a softer setup. Now, for the next category, in my opinion, they're also upgraded there because the shoe is not as stiff anymore, yet still very supportive. If you try to flex them, that's always a test I like to do. You can see they're still relatively stable. We have those TPU overlays here that actually add a lot of support. They're kind of like a cage that keeps your foot in there. Then we still have this Adidas X-shaped shank plate that does a good job. We even have a little plastic reinforcement here. We have two heel cups now. On the AE1s, we just had one. It's still not carbon fiber, it just looks like carbon fiber, but it does a solid job. So your heel is actually even more secured than on the AE1s. And I also actually really like the lacing setup on these. That's definitely an upgrade, because we have nylon lace cables that go down the side of your foot. that keep your foot on the footbed, which is just absolutely awesome. There's one thing about the laces that's annoying, but it's more like a material standpoint in my opinion. So simply for support, I think they're an upgrade. They're a little less stiff, but they're also way quicker to be broken in. So while the X-Plate might be a little less stiff than what we saw on the AE ones, just a quick comparison here. As you can see, the midfoot is more stable, the toe area has some flex too, but the midfoot is more stable and also just in general more stiff. The shoe overall feels way more stiff. These are broken in way faster, so I really didn't have any issues with the support. And as I said, what was also really amazing is that the insole didn't move anymore. That was so annoying on the AE1s. And here it's perfect, it stays in place. Still not the best insole, but it gets the job done. And for the support features, I really had no issues. I love how they kept the design. You can really tell at first glance that's an Anthony Edwards shoe. It's unmistakably AE, and yet they still managed to make some drastic improvements. And in my opinion, the most improvements took place in the material category. This is an awesome upgrade. They are actually even lighter than the AE1 lows, so let's get that out of the way too, and because that has to do with the material change. The AE1 highs came in at like 650 grams or something, which is absolutely insane for one pair in a size 13.5. The lows were somewhere at 570 or something, which is still pretty heavy. And these come in at 540 or something. You can see the video on screen anyways. I also have the ounces in there if you're not familiar with grams or with the European way of weighing things. So that's really a drastic upgrade. And for me, the main reason for that is that they cut down on the materials. We have a textile mesh-like with those TPU overlays, this TPU cage that I mentioned already. And we also have those nylon lace cables. We have some little bit of neoprene feel here in the heel, kind of like we have with the Shea 001. And we just don't have this foam posite vibe here anymore with all these plastic overlays. Essentially, the materials here we had underneath that plastic overlay on the AE1 as well. They just chose to go with a bold design statement and put those plastic overlays over there. And I actually just liked the feel of it. It was just weird for a modern day basketball shoe. And here you essentially get all the good things you had on the AE1s underneath that shell without the upper shell. Just two overlays here for extra support. And in my opinion, it's absolutely perfect. You have actually even surprisingly good ventilation because those textile and mesh materials are very thin, yet still supportive enough because of those overlays. And what I mentioned before is something that's a little bit annoying are the laces because they are just way too long. I don't know what Adidas thought there, and I don't know how they got it so wrong, but they're just way too long. If you tie them really tightly, they'll almost hit the floor even if you do a double knot. So that's something you might have to keep an eye out for. Try to get the right size, because if you don't have the right size and you have to tie them even more tightly, then the laces you're going to probably trip over the laces or something. There's also a second pair of laces that came with the shoe. I like the all black look more. I think it looks cleaner, but you can also swap them out for the main accent color of the shoe, which is a nice detail they kept from the AE1s as well. And in my opinion, this is what a modern day basketball shoe should have in materials. There's no need for leather materials. For one, that's just animal cruelty. Killing animals and using your body parts is just something I don't support. So I live by a vegan lifestyle anyways, so I wouldn't even test them if they had leather materials. And in my opinion, these materials are also way more performance oriented. They're lighter, they're more breathable, and you still get good support and a good fit and a comfortable feel on them. So really shout out, props to Adidas. They did an amazing job with the AE2s, especially in the material standpoint. I talked about the weight already, so that's a little different than the usual order in my videos. And the last thing I want to talk about is the fit of the shoes. They are pretty much the same as the AE1s. I said already no heel zip, but they're kind of tight in the toe area. So just be aware by sizing up. Man, I'm holding them up and I just held up the AE1s before. They are so much lighter. It's such a great shoe. I've had so much fun playing them and they're definitely going to stay in the rotation. But back to the point I was trying to make. The toe box is still very narrow. So at first when I was playing with them, my big toe kind of felt like it was hitting the front. When I first put them on, I was like, damn man, these are way too narrow, because I really don't like the feeling if my toes hit the front. I always get some blisters or it just starts to hurt, and I really can't have that especially in season when I need to perform every weekend and in practice as well. But then I played with them a little bit more. They got wider, they softened up a little bit. This part right here probably takes the most time to break in, just because it's where the biggest rubber part is or the most rubber is. So just give them a little bit of time. They're gonna break in my personal opinion. And I would go true to size. For wide footers, if you have the chance, try them on in store. That could be a big thing. And if you have the AE1s and they fit you, just go with the exact same size, because in my opinion, they really have the same fit. And now for the last part of the video, overall score. I got a suggestion on my last review I did that I should make a scale from 0 to Book 1, because the Book 1 is my all-time favorite shoe, and that's an absolutely great idea, and that's what I'm gonna do right now. In my opinion, the AE2 has actually come pretty damn close to the Book 2s. They're not all the way there. There's just some things I wish they would have done a little bit differently, just a little bit more space in the toe area, a more durable outsole, maybe a tiny little bit more impact protection in the heel. I'm also interested to see if they're going to make a lower cut, because that's something I prefer as well, because my ankle braces can sometimes push into my ankle or dig into my ankle if the shoe is too high. With these, it's right on the edge. So there's just some minor things there, but they are really damn close to the Nike Book 1s. So overall, really great job from Adidas on the AE2s. This is exactly what I would wish other brands would do with a second signature shoe as well, or just with a follow-up model. Take things that were great with the first model and improve them for the second model, and give the consumer something like an upgraded, improved version of the one, so we know what we can expect with some minor details and some minor improvements, or actually here some major improvements. That's just awesome in my personal opinion. Let me know what you think of the AE2s, if you've played with them already, or if you just want to be nice and leave a comment for the algorithm. I would really appreciate it. Of course, I would also appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, and it would help me out even more if you could subscribe to my channel. With all that being said, have a good one and see you next time for more performance reviews.